Hi again. We're going to be talking about finding purpose in today's episode. But first of all, I'm going to sort of introduce you to where we're walking through. And it's literally one of our favourite places in the world, and it's Wytham Woods near Oxford. And right now it's -4. So for the UK, we're having a particularly cold January. And it's very, very atmospheric right now. Let me show you. Now, I half expect to see a stag or something coming out of the woods any moment, and they do have deer here in Wytham. Anyway, let's get going with this episode. So, Karen, what are we talking about today?
Well, finding purpose, which personally I've got a bit of anxiety about, because I was fortunate enough as a young person, as a teen, well, even younger than a teen, to always know I wanted to be in education. So in a way, I've never had, like my friends, a quest for, what is my purpose in life? What job am I going to do? I've always known I wanted to teach and be in education, and I was lucky enough to be able to do that. And so when I decided that I was going to leave work, I automatically thought, well, I'll do volunteer with special needs young people. That's what I've been working in just recently, and I'll just replace it. And then I thought, well, that's crazy. That's kind of like a knee-jerk reaction. Still being in the same field, it's not challenging me to actually find a new passion. And in this stage of life, I'd like to broaden my horizons. And I have found it quite stressful thinking, well, what can replace that really important job, which I felt was very important, being education, working with young people? What can be so purposeful as that? So that's what I'm really working through at the moment.
And I think that transition, particularly for a lot of people who've been in a sort of like very all-encompassing career that's taken their focus, is a really natural moment to it will be quite intimidating, that switch to how do I find my new purpose at that stage of your life. As I say, for me, easy, writer, I have my purpose, but generally it is maybe quite a challenge. So Karen, how have you sort of been going about that?
Well, I wasn't even really too sure what finding your purpose meant, because I could only think of grand purposes like change the world, change the climate, fight for special needs. That was what I was thinking of, but actually, having done quite a lot of research on it, your purpose could be caring for your loved ones, helping the neighbours. It's basically anything that lights you up. Now that sounds easy. What lights me up? Well, that's what I'm trying to find at the moment. I
think one of my pieces of advice there would be, look at what sort of throughout your life, can you think back to what sort of like really lit you up? And then you could be going right back to your childhood. It could be doing something you really enjoyed. It could be like artwork. It could be all sorts of things, some sort of sports. And I think in your case, Karen, when we were talking about this before, you were talking about how competitive sports was something you really enjoyed at school.
Oh yeah, I loved sport at school. I think it was more the teamwork than perhaps the competitiveness, but also it got you out. It gave you a structure. It gave you a reason to get up in the morning. But I also loved art and crafts, and I have been doing that. And I have to say that when I have been doing that since July, I've completely hit flow state. Flow state for me being when time just disappears. So yeah. I think definitely something making stuff. But again, I haven't really quite yet discovered what it is. But I'm just trying to say to myself, I'm trying to be kind to myself and say it doesn't matter, take your time. Things will come to you. And also I'm actively searching as well.
I think that's quite an interesting point, because I think sometimes a purpose could be with a capital P, a really big thing you have to do with your whole be, but actually it could be a sort of portfolio, a smorgasbord of purposes, lots of little things adding up. So it could be your craft, it could be a little bit this, a little bit that, but it all adds up into sort of actually creating quite a fulfilling life.
And I think, well, going back to my research about what a meaningful, purposeful life is, it's something that sparks joy in you, you enjoy, it motivates you to get up, it gives you a framework to live in. So rather than replicating my framework of education and going volunteering, I need to create a different framework.
Yeah.
So that's my challenge and where I'm at the moment. And I'm wondering where you are on your journey, whether you're thinking of retiring and thinking what you could do. Perhaps you've got interests already. Or are you feeling a bit like me, wandering through the woods of life, thinking, what am I going to be doing?
Great metaphor.
So, yeah, I'd really love to know your thoughts. Anything else, Nick?
I think that's a really good, it's really interesting to hear your perspective about this, and be very honest about the sort of challenges you're facing. But I do really think that's a very natural thing.
Well,
but there is one thing though, I think the natural thing when you're coming up to retirement is everybody is very financially focused, and that is absolutely really, really important. But I do think there is something generally most of us get wrong here, and that we put the financial situation for retirement first. And yes, it is important that you can actually afford to retire and all the rest of it, but actually maybe we need to be putting our purpose first.
Yeah, I think, well, that's certainly for me. I mean, even if I had all the money in the world at the moment, if I don't know what to do with it, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
But just I had another little thought as you were saying that. It was about how a lot of my self-esteem, I think, was tied up with my important job in education. And suddenly, like if I'm at a party, and I'm lucky enough to get to a party, if I'm at a party and someone says, what do you do? Yeah, I'm not working at the moment, I do a bit of craft work. And I'm thinking, what would I say? But then maybe I've got to hope that they don't ask me that question. Maybe they ask me, what do I love doing? Or
yeah, I think, wasn't that, and we came across this recently in a podcast, and they were saying, rather than ask somebody what job do they do, which that's normally what we all do when we meet somebody for the first time, it was actually, so what makes you really happy in life? And I think that's a really important question to sort of like pose to yourself, particularly at this stage, the third stage of life.
yeah,
What makes you happy? And if you don't have a ready answer to that, you're probably going to have to work and chisel away at revealing what that means for you. So that try things out, do those art lessons you've always wanted to do, get travelling. But I really believe actually purpose is a collection of these things.
yeah, absolutely. And I think for me personally as well, added to purpose is a little bit of challenge, so I can feel that I've achieved something. So I think not just doing things I can do easily, but working towards something is important for me. So a very minor thing I'm doing at the moment, I'm doing I think it's a 12-week press-up challenge. So I've never been able to do press-ups, but I've started this very gradual thing. I'm determined this year, 2025, is going to be the year that I can do 20 press-ups. You're supposed to end up doing 50, but maybe if I aim for 20, I might exceed it.
Fantastic. Okay, I think we'll sign off just briefly, and then we'll start the next bit a bit further in the wood.
Yeah.
Right, so we're currently sat under a hornbeam, which if I just tip the camera back, you can see absolutely beautiful trees in Whiteham. So one of our sort of favourite sorts of trees in this wood. But anyway, we were going to quickly to summarise what we spoke about today and maybe add a few points.
Yeah. So it's really all about searching for a new purpose, or rediscovering a purpose that I can do in this sort of next stage of life after work. Not mentioning that word retirement, we don't like that word. And I think one other thing I've got hanging over me is that, if I'm doing my craft work, I think, oh, that's rubbish, that's not very good. And so I think I've got to sort of learn to appreciate that, maybe my interests are on a journey. And also, it doesn't matter whether I'm good or I'm bad or they're rubbish. If I'm really enjoying them, like I said, I get into flow state. That's all that really matters. So, yeah, I think it's just about being kind to myself as I rediscover or discover whatever my purpose in life is. And also realising that I don't have to have a mega purpose. It doesn't have to be, something huge. It can be a small purpose, something that motivates me, makes me want to get up in the morning. And actually, as we were walking along here, I said to Nick that, this walking in these woods, which are so ancient and so special and so beautiful, that is a passion of mine. One of my purposes could be walking in these beautiful woods, appreciating nature, learning about nature. Life is full of abundance of things that I could choose to do. I don't need to view it through a lens of, if I don't do it well, I can't do it. So I think I've got to challenge myself on that, and I do like a challenge, so I'm going to try and work at that, I think, over the next week.
That sounds really good.
Not judging myself for having a purpose that perhaps I view as too small. Maybe I've got to work on my self-esteem. But yes, absolutely.
And I think like Karen's just said, getting out for walks, and nature has always been very important to us.
Yeah.
And as I said at the start of the video, we're out in Wytham Woods. It's -4. You can probably tell that by what we're wearing. I say full-blown ski gear sort of thing for me anyway. And somebody famously said, there's no such thing as the wrong weather, just the wrong clothes. So, whatever mood you're in, there's always something very uplifting about getting out into nature. Here it's I'm sure you're familiar with the phrase woodland bathing, and it's Japanese this whole idea that you can get out and just sort of wander, meander through nature and reconnect maybe to the world around you, and whatever problems you got rattling around your head, it just gives you, they seem to melt away when you're on walks like this.
Or maybe seem more possible to work around, or not necessarily solve, but live with them, or find some way to make them less.
I think in life is filled with stressful moments and everything, and that's just the nature of life. You can't have real happiness without, in some ways, maybe real pain even, but it's that duality of existence that I just think is part and parcel of being alive. And I think the problem is maybe sometimes when things are really sort of way on top of you, you lose that perspective. And a simple thing as getting out in nature, talking about one's purpose and finding purpose is really therapeutic, and you feel a sense of lightness of being, I think, after a walk like this.
Yeah, definitely lifts the spirits.
So as we head off home, just to wrap up then, we'd love to hear what you think. Just to sort of pick up what Karen said earlier. Are you heading to retirement with your purpose clearly in mind? Are you at sea, not knowing what on earth you're going to do with all this time in your life? We'd just love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And so with that, we will see you again soon.
Bye.